There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that the world will keep on demanding, pulling, and tugging at her until she has nothing left to give. But hear me today. There is a secret power within you that the noise of life cannot take away. That power is found when you focus on yourself, not in selfishness, not in arrogance, but in strength, in healing, in growth, and in purpose. Your mind is the battlefield where destiny is decided. Long before you ever see victory in your hands, the battle has already been won or lost in your thoughts. What you think about yourself, what you believe about your worth, what you allow to play on repeat in the chambers of your imagination. These are the silent architects of your future. Too many women are living under the weight of words that were spoken over them years ago. Words that told them they were not enough. Words that told them they were too much. Words that planted seeds of insecurity and watered them with shame. And because those seeds were left unchecked, they grew into vines that now strangle vision, choke purpose, and limit the capacity to dream. But you cannot afford to let weeds of doubt keep sprouting in your mind. The mind is too valuable a space to be wasted on lies. You must guard it as fiercely as a queen guards her crown, because everything else about your life flows from the condition of your mind. It is in the mind that comparison is born, that deadly habit of measuring yourself against somebody else's highlight reel. You scroll, you watch, you listen, and before long you start believing that what you have is not enough, that where you are is not enough, that where you are is not enough. And every time you allow that spirit of comparison to whisper in your thoughts, you hand over your joy, you hand over your peace, you hand over your confidence. But when you take back control, when you say, no more, I will not let my mind become a dumping ground for insecurity, that is when the shift begins. You cannot silence every outside voice, but you can choose which ones get amplified inside your head. Every morning you wake up, you are standing at the gateway of your thoughts. What you allow in will determine how you walk out. If you feed your mind with negativity, you will walk through the day with heaviness. If you feed your mind with truth, with affirmations, with the word, you will walk with authority. There is power in repetition. What you say over and over to yourself eventually becomes the song your life dances to. Speak life into yourself until your ears are tired of hearing it. Because if you don't encourage yourself, you might not always find somebody else who will. The most dangerous prisons are not made of concrete and steel. They are built inside the mind. A woman can be freed on the outside and yet chained on the inside by her own thoughts. Some are bound by fear, some by guilt, some by the memory of what they went through. But you cannot walk into tomorrow still chained to yesterday's voices. The enemy of destiny is not always an external opposition. Often it is an internal conversation. Until you change that conversation, you will keep repeating the same cycles. There are women who look strong on the outside, but are fighting silent wars on the inside. Smiles can cover battles. Success can cover insecurities. Business can cover emptiness. But at the end of the day, when the crowd is gone, when the noise is quiet, when the mask is off, what plays in your mind determines whether you sleep in peace or cry in silence. That is why you must do the hard work of renewing your thoughts, cleansing your imagination, and reclaiming your focus. Do not let your mind be a hotel where every passing thought can check in and stay overnight. Some thoughts need to be evicted on sight. Doubt shows up, evict it. Fear shows up, evict it. Comparison knocks, send it packing. You must treat your thoughts as precious territory. Not everyone and not everything deserves access. The secret that unstoppable women carry is not just talent, not just beauty, not just opportunity. It is mental discipline. A woman who has learned to master her thoughts becomes a force that cannot be manipulated, cannot be intimidated, cannot be diminished. She becomes anchored in who she is because her mind has been trained to agree with her purpose. When storms come, she may bend, but she will not break because her thoughts are rooted in strength. When setbacks come, she may cry, but she will not quit because her mind is already conditioned to see obstacles as stepping stones. You must begin to see your thoughts as seeds. Every time you allow a thought to linger, you are planting something. If it is a thought of power, it will grow into courage. If it is a thought of peace, it will grow into calm. If it is a thought of faith, it will grow into resilience. But if it is a thought of defeat, it will grow into paralysis. If it is a thought of envy, it will grow into bitterness. If it is a thought of shame, it will grow into silence. You have the authority to decide what you are planting. The most powerful shift happens when a woman chooses to believe differently about herself. When she wakes up and says, I am not who they said I am. I am who I know I am. When she decides that the narrative in her mind will no longer be written by critics, by abusers, by haters, by doubters, but will be written by her own truth. When she refuses to keep rehearsing pain and instead starts rehearsing possibility, that is when the battlefield turns in her favor. Your destiny does not begin with what's in your bank account, what's in your closet, or what's on your RA Summe. It begins with what's in your head. If you win in your mind, you will win in your life. If you lose in your mind, even victory in your hands will feel like defeat. That is why you must protect your mind as though your life depends on it, because it does. You cannot rise into the fullness of your destiny while standing still in the comfort of who you used to be. Growth has never been easy, and it has never been cheap. It costs time, it costs effort, it costs the willingness to let go of familiar places and familiar patterns. To invest in your growth means you must make a decision that you are not going to stay where you are. You must silence the guilt that tries to shame you when you choose yourself. You must silence the voices that say you are moving too fast, reaching too high, dreaming too big. You must silence the doubts that whisper that you don't deserve it. Elevation is not arrogance. It is obedience to the call that rests on your life. There will always be people who are more comfortable with you staying the same. They loved you when you were small, when you were easy to manage, when you didn't demand space, when you didn't require change. But when you begin to stretch, when you start to educate yourself, when you dare to dream out loud, suddenly your growth threatens their comfort. Do not mistake their discomfort for your disobedience. If you are to become unstoppable, you must make peace with being misunderstood. Growth requires risk. It requires you to put yourself in spaces where you are not the smartest person in the room, where you may stumble, where you may feel out of place. But every stumble teaches you balance. Every stretch enlarges your reach. Every failure refines your wisdom. The woman who refuses to grow will always live in the shadow of regret. The woman who chooses to grow may tremble, but she will always move forward. You must start giving yourself permission to pursue opportunities without apology. Too many women lower their voices, shrink their dreams, and suppress their desires because they fear being labeled as selfish or prideful. But what they call pride is often just power. What they call arrogance is often just courage. And what they call selfishness is often just focus. If you continue to hide your growth to make others comfortable, you will forfeit the very future you were created to live. It may mean going back to school when others think it is too late. It may mean starting a business when others say you should play it safe. It may mean walking away from a relationship that cannot grow with you. Growth requires pruning, and pruning is always painful. But you cannot carry everything and expect to climb. You must be willing to release weight in order to rise. Every skill you learn, every book you read, every discipline you master adds another layer to your strength. Knowledge is not just power, it is protection. When you invest in your growth, you protect yourself from manipulation, from ignorance, from cycles of limitation. A wise woman cannot be easily deceived. A prepared woman cannot be easily stopped. Growth arms you with tools that transform your potential into power. Do not let fear of failure keep you stagnant. Failure is not the enemy of growth, it is the evidence of it. Every attempt that does not work teaches you something that success cannot. Every door that closes points you toward the one that is opening. Every no builds resilience for the yes that is coming. The process of growth is never wasted because even when you do not reach the outcome you wanted, you become stronger in the process. You must also understand that growth is not only about achievement, it is about becoming. It is about becoming disciplined in your habits, becoming intentional in your choices, becoming wise in your relationships. It is about aligning your daily actions with the vision that burns inside of you. Unstoppable women are not built by accident. They are forged in the fire of consistency. What you do every day, the routines you build, the sacrifices you make, these are the invisible bricks that build an unshakable foundation. Growth requires saying no. No to distractions that waste your time. No to people who drain your energy. No to opportunities that don't align with your purpose. Every yes must be protected by 1,000 strategic no's. When you invest in your growth, you realize that not everything deserves your attention. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not every path deserves your footsteps. And let it be known, growth does not always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like late nights of studying, lonely seasons of rebuilding, quiet moments of wrestling with yourself. Growth is often hidden before it is celebrated. The world may not clap for you while you are becoming, but that does not mean you are not making progress. You do not need applause to validate your growth. You need discipline to sustain it. The secret of women who rise above limits is that they never stop investing in themselves. They keep learning, they keep stretching, they keep daring. They refuse to live off yesterday's victories. They refuse to be trapped by old versions of themselves. They know that what was enough for yesterday will not be enough for tomorrow, so they keep pouring into their own development, knowing that the more they grow, the more they can give, the more they can build, the more they can influence. There are wounds you can see, and there are wounds you cannot see. The ones people notice may leave scars on the skin, but the ones that are hidden go much deeper because they cut into the soul. Too many women are trying to build a new life while carrying pain that was never addressed, never healed, never released. They keep smiling for the world, performing strength for everybody else, but inside they are bleeding silently. When you refuse to confront what hurt you, it does not disappear. It disguises itself. It hides inside your decisions. It shows up in your relationships. It shapes how you see yourself. Unhealed wounds turn into invisible chains that drag behind you no matter how far you try to run. Some carry wounds from childhood, words spoken by a parent who never saw their value, the sting of abandonment, the silence of neglect. Others carry wounds from broken love, betrayal, rejection, abuse. And because society often tells women to be strong, to push through, to endure, they bury their pain under layers of business and responsibility. But buried pain is not healed pain. A seed can be buried and grow into life, but pain that is buried grows into poison. It leaks out in your tone, in your temper, in your choices. You think you have it under control until one day the right pressure presses against it and suddenly you realize the wound is still alive. Healing is not weakness. Healing is warfare. It is declaring that you will not spend the rest of your life as a hostage to what someone else did to you. It is deciding that the abuse will not be the author of your story, that the betrayal will not be the defining chapter of your life. It is choosing to break cycles so that what broke you does not bleed into your children, your friendships, your future. Healing is not just for you. It is for every life connected to you. When you heal, you change the atmosphere around you. Too many women think healing means forgetting. But healing does not erase memory. It removes the sting. It transforms the memory from a chain into a testimony. It takes the same moment that once broke you and turns it into the proof that you survived. Healing does not mean the past never happened. It means the past no longer has the power to control how you move. Forgiveness is one of the heaviest parts of healing because it feels unfair. Why should you forgive someone who never apologized, who never owned what they did, who never showed remorse? But forgiveness is not about setting them free. It is about setting yourself free. When you hold on to bitterness, you think you are punishing them, but really you are poisoning yourself. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the cage where your soul has been trapped. You may never hear the apology you deserve, but you can still choose the freedom you need. There are women who keep attracting the same kind of pain because their wounds have become magnets. If you have not healed from rejection, you will find yourself in cycles of settling for people who cannot love you. If you have not healed from betrayal, you will live suspicious of everyone, even those who mean you well. If you have not healed from abuse, you will normalize mistreatment and call it love. Healing is not optional. It is necessary if you want to stop repeating the same cycles in different seasons. And healing is a process, not a moment. You may feel strong one day and broken the next. You may think you are over it until something triggers the memory. But every time you choose to face it instead of fleeing from it, you are making progress. Every tear you shed in truth is washing away a layer of pain. Every time you refuse to let shame silence you, you are reclaiming power. Every time you choose to confront instead of conceal, you are breaking the chain. It is also important to surround yourself with safe places to heal. You cannot recover in the same environment that broke you. You cannot heal around people who dismiss your pain, minimize your feelings, or shame your process. You need voices that affirm your worth, environments that nurture your growth, spaces that allow you to be vulnerable without judgment. Healing is not something you have to do alone, but it is something you must decide to pursue. When a woman heals, she shifts. She becomes lighter, clearer, freer. Her laughter is no longer a mask. It is a melody. Her tears are no longer a weakness. They are a release. Her voice no longer trembles with fear. It carries authority. Healing creates a strength that cannot be faked because it comes from the depth of brokenness that has been transformed into power. That is why a healed woman is unstoppable, because she has already survived what should have destroyed her. There comes a point when you must stop asking permission to be who you are and start standing boldly in the truth of your identity. Too many women spend years trying to shrink themselves into boxes that were never designed to hold them, trying to dim their light so that others will not feel threatened, trying to quiet their voice so that others will not be uncomfortable. But you were never created to live in the shadow of someone else's approval. The secret power of unstoppable women is not in becoming a copy of anybody else. It is in the courage to own their identity and walk confidently in it. Every time you apologize for being yourself, you hand over a piece of your power. You apologize for your ambition. You apologize for your passion. You apologize for your intelligence. You apologize for your dreams. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced you that being strong meant you were intimidating, that being vocal meant you were aggressive, that being focused meant you were selfish. But the truth is, you are not too much. You are exactly enough. You do not need to dilute yourself to make others comfortable. You do not need to break yourself down into smaller pieces to be accepted. You were made to take up space, to be heard, to be seen, to be recognized. Owning your identity means recognizing that you are more than the titles attached to you. You are more than a mother, more than a wife, more than an employee, more than a friend. You are more than the labels people use to define you and more than the mistakes you have made. You are a whole person with a destiny that cannot be reduced to one role or one season. Too many women lose themselves because they get stuck in a single identity, forgetting that who they are is bigger than what they do. But the moment you reclaim your name, your voice, your presence, you begin to walk with a confidence that no circumstance can steal. The danger of not owning your identity is that you will always live for validation. You will perform for applause, chase approval, and compromise your truth just to be accepted. And the problem with living for validation is that the same people who clap for you today can turn against you tomorrow. If your worth is built on their approval, then your value will rise and fall with their opinions. But when your worth is built on the unshakable truth of who you are steady no matter what others say or do. There is a boldness that comes when you finally accept yourself. You stop competing with others because you realize you are in a lane of your own. You stop comparing your journey because you realize no one else can do what you were called to do. You stop doubting yourself because you realize your uniqueness is not a flaw, it is a weapon. Owning your identity is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is aligning with the purpose that was placed inside you from the beginning. And owning your identity means embracing not just the strengths you love, but also the parts of yourself you once tried to hide. The scars, the struggles, the failures, the lessons, they are not weaknesses, they are proof of resilience. Every scar tells a story that you survived. Every failure shows that you tried. Every struggle reveals that you endured. Stop trying to erase the chapters that shaped you. They are not shame, they are substance. They are the evidence that you carry a history strong enough to fuel a future. The world does not need another imitation. It does not need another woman trying to mold herself into somebody else's image. It needs you, authentic, unapologetic, unfiltered. It needs your voice because there are people only you can reach. It needs your vision because there are ideas only you can birth. It needs your fire because there are battles only you can fight. Every time you water yourself down to fit in, the world loses the fullness of what you were meant to bring. You must begin to stand tall in your identity, even if it means standing alone. You must wear your uniqueness like a crown, not like a burden. You must walk into rooms with the confidence that you belong there, not because someone allowed you, but because purpose put you there. And when you stand in your truth, something shifts. People may resist at first, but even resistance cannot deny authenticity. The more you own who you are, the more doors open that were waiting for the real you to arrive. Owning your identity also means refusing to let your past dictate your present. Too many women allow mistakes to become a permanent label. They walk around carrying shame as though it defines them. But your identity is not locked in your failures. What you did is not who you are. The moment you understand this, you free yourself from the prison of guilt and step into the power of grace. You stop introducing yourself by your history and start introducing yourself by your destiny. There is no freedom greater than the freedom of being yourself. No mask, no act, no performance. Just you, raw, powerful, intentional. When you live in that kind of truth, you cannot be stopped because you are no longer controlled by fear of rejection or the hunger for validation. You are grounded, rooted, and aligned with who you were created to be. That is the secret power of women who refuse to bow to the pressure of conformity. They own their identity, and in doing so, they unlock a strength that nothing can break.